We have to start because it is already 2. So in our previous class, we complete the term what is called as market. Good morning, good morning. We have to know the term what is the meaning of the market and what are the different types of markets are there. Like yes, like the term what is called the profit competition, what is called the monopoly, and monopolistic competitions. And thereafter, we also know the term what is called as oligopolistic competitions. Thereafter, we enter into the term how to determine the price and output. But before we determine the price and output, we also know what are the major differences are to be there between your profit competitions, monopoly, monopolistic competitions, and oligopoly. Like the type of producers, I mean, what type of product they produces, the control over the prices, and so on, right? So these things are there. We just enter into that, starting to sharing the slide. Then we have to discuss today how the price and output to be determined in perfect competitions. And if time permit, then we have to enter into the next topic, what is called the pricing under the monopoly. Okay, let's start with the first topic. What is the term price output determination under perfect competitions? Okay, I think it's visible to all. Okay, that's right. So we know that the four type of market conditions are there, like profit competitions, where there exists a large number of buyers and sellers, right? The buying and selling the identical type of product, that is a homogeneous type of product, without any restrictions of the entry and exit. That means the existence of the free entry and exit, and having the perfect knowledge about the market and the time. That means both the producers and the seller, the buyers and the sellers have know how much the product will be available, where it will be available, at what price it is available. That is the concept of the profit competitions. If you move to the monopoly, monopoly means mono means single, poly means seller. So there is a single seller. Then maybe the large number of buyers are there, but the seller sells the product which has no such close substitute. It is to be differentiated type of product it will produces, right? And as a high, I mean restrictions to the entry and exit because he is the sole producer. He can't allow anyone to enter into the market. Then moves to the monopolistic competition. Actually, the monopolistic competition is the blending of both profit competition and monopoly. Some features of the profit competition and some features of monopoly we have to considering that the monopolistic competition. And the monopolistic competition in the real life there exists in the monopolistic competitions. And here there is a large number of buyers and seller, which is to be less than that of the profit competitions, right? It will sells as a differentiated type of product. It means it produces a heterogeneous product. In profit competition, it produces homogeneous product, but here it produces heterogeneous product but differentiated nature like in monopoly. And here also the free entry and exit, there is no barriers are there like perfect competitions, right? And if you move to the next type of market, that is called the oligopoly, where there existence of few seller, because oligo means few, poly means seller. It's the few seller market, right? It produces a product which is to be homogeneous or identical in one, but in the differentiated in nature, and also their existence of the certain amount of the barrier to the entry and exit is not free as perfect competition as monopolistic, but it is not as much as strict as monopoly. It may be free, but there is a restricted entry and exit to be that. That's the concept of the oligopoly. Now, after knowing those sort of things, we start with the first component, and these things also we discussed in the last class, right? Let's start with the how price and output to be determinations under the profit competitions. As we know, what is the meaning of the profit competitions? In reality, this type of market does not exist. But we assume, if it is taking into account some sort of assumption, is the agricultural type of product is the best example to handle or tackle the concept what is called the profit competition. The profit competition is a myth. Still then we can complete this particular theory because it is the foundations of the market structure. As we know, the profit competitions means a market in which there are the large number of buyers and sellers. The products have to be homogeneous one, and the sellers can easily entry and exit in the market. There is no restrictions in the entry and exit. And these are the major characteristics like large buyers, sellers, homogeneous product or the standardized product to be available. Okay. Next concept is to be free entry and exit. There is no restrictions of the entry and exit. Then the role of the non-price competitions is insignificant. In this case, as the producer produces the homogeneous type of product and all the product are identical in nature, so there is no such price competition to be takes place. Then the perfect knowledge about the market, both the buyers and sellers have the perfect knowledge about the market structure, where it is available at what price and so on. Then profit mobility, the factors of production. Factors of production is perfectly mobile. Like the product to be mobile, factors also be the mobile. There is no restrictions of the movement of the laborers or any sort of capital to be that. And the most important part is the absence of the transportation cost. Beside this, you can take into account some other, characteristics like in case of a profit competition, there is the existence of the difference between the farm and industry. Some of the group of the farm, they may be considered as the industry. Okay, combination of the farm to be treated as an industry. And always the producer obtain supernormal profit or losses or normal profit in case of a short run, but he always earn normal profit in long run because of the entry and exit. Okay, and here the demand curve to be a horizontal straight line. Demand curve means average revenue curve. It is a horizontal straight line, and where the marginal revenue also will coincide with it because the uniform price, right? Now, actually take into account, we know the market equilibrium when the demand and supply to be intersect each other to determine the price of a product. And here, in case of the profit competition, the producer is a price taker. Okay, the producer it will be treated as a price taker. It accepts the ruling price of the market. So what the market equilibrium? We know when the demand and supply to be intersect each other. When the demand and supply to be intersect each other, then that determine the market. The price is to be, let's say, assuming at it to be the 10. Okay, on the horizontal axis, it to be represented as the quantity, and the vertical axis the revenue and cost, or it will be taken into account the price to be here. Okay, and this is the equilibrium price, and this the equilibrium price to be accepted by the producers. That means if you take into account the demand and supply, they are intersect each other at this particular point, right? And corresponding to that, this is called the equilibrium price, and that price to be accepted by the all the producers inside the industry, right? So therefore, since it is a price taker, the farm is a price taker, it accepts the ruling price of the market. Due to that, the demand curve under your profit competition to be a horizontal straight line. This is your demand curve actually. This is your demand curve where the average revenue and the marginal revenue they have to be coincide. That means the price is same thing as the average revenue and marginal revenue. So that is the demand curve. So always you have to considering these things as the demand curve under the profit competitions. Why it is so? Because it is the price taker. It accepts the ruling price of the market. But we have to show it with the help of the both total revenue, total cost, marginal revenue, and marginal cost approach. Let's say we have to considering the term. Suppose here the total revenue and total cost approach. Total revenue to be it to be remain the 100, 200. Why it is so? Because we have to take into account price to be remains constant. If you take into account price is 100, everywhere price is to be 100. Okay. If you take the everywhere the price is 100 because the uniform price. As in the previous figure, what you find that the price to be remains constant. That is the horizontal straight line, and that is the price. So if you take the price to be here, price to be 100, or the average revenue to be 100, when you multiply this column, total revenue, how it will calculate? The price into, that is the average revenue or the price into the number of quantities sold in the market, into the number of quantities sold in the market. And here, the zero quantity sold means it is the total revenue 0, 100 into 1, 100, 200 into 2, 200 and so on. So this is the total revenue curve. And total cost, as you know, whether the producers or not producers, fixed cost is there because we start with a certain situation. Our very beginning, the fixed cost must be appear. Thereafter, total cost increases at a diminishing rate. After that, it increases to increasing rate. You know, because of the law of increasing returns, and thereafter the law of diminishing returns. Okay, and what is the technical differences between the total revenue and total cost? Okay, when you take the difference between TR and TC, that is called the profit. If profit is positive, it's called the profit. If the profit is negative, that's called the negative profit or the losses. Negative profit is called the losses. Okay, then how we have to represent with the help of the figure? Let's start with the figure. So what do you find to be here? Total cost is to be increases initially at a diminishing rate. Thereafter, it increases at an increasing rate. This is the shape of the total cost. And total revenue is to be a horizontal straight line. And corresponding to this output, while you putting it, and our target where the profit to be the maximum. Obviously, when the differences between the tier and DC is to be maximum here, 10. That means the difference between 300 and 290, 400 and 390, that way it to be calculating the differences between your total revenue and total cost, right? But here, TR minus TC, TR is to be 3 times 300, this is again with the positive, this is also with the positive. Therefore, this is the situation. Up to this, if you take into account this point and this particular point, these two, the point A and the point B, they are to be treated as the break-even point. Why they are to be treated as the break-even point? Because the total revenue and total cost, they are equal to each other. But prior to that, losses occur to the producer. Why? Because cost is more than the revenue. After that, loss occur to the producer. Why? Again, same thing. Cost is more than the revenue. So inside this particular point, that means the A and B, in between the that is called the break-even points, we find the revenue to be there. But what is the maximum revenue? So in order to obtain the maximum revenue, you have to take the tangency. If the tangent is to be parallel to that total revenue line or total revenue line, then that's corresponding to that level of output is called as the equilibrium output. And here we maximize the profit. That is the highest vertical distance between your TC and TR. So that is called the profit maximization case in case of your TR and TC approach. Now move to the MR and MC approach. While you're considering the MR and MC, then what do you find? Again, you know the term total revenue and total cost as such there in the previous figure and previous slide. Again, the profit loss also been known to you. You just added the two additional columns are there, marginal cost and marginal revenue. What is that marginal cost? The difference between two successive total revenue is called the marginal revenue. Difference between two successive total cost is called the marginal cost. So if you pass it the blank, next is to be you have to take into account the what is the differences between the tier, why the total differences to be here? Because the change in total revenue to the change in output. What is the change in total revenue or the difference between two successive total revenue? Addition made to the total revenue is called the marginal revenue. Addition made to the total cost is called the marginal cost. Or the slope of total revenue is called the marginal revenue. Slope of total cost is called the marginal cost. Now we have to considering this marginal revenue and marginal cost. This marginal revenue, it is always constant. It is always a horizontal. It is equivalent to the what that's called as the demand curve or the average revenue curve. So the marginal revenue must be equal to the average revenue. It is a horizontal straight line. And marginal cost it continuously increases. First fall, then obtain its minimum point, then it increases. That how the marginal cost we derive from the total cost, right? Now, what is the profit maximizing condition? The condition for the profit maximization in case of a TRTC approach, difference between TR and TC is maximum. But in case of your, MRMC approach, in this case, MR must be equal to MC, and after the point of equilibrium, MC must be increases. Marginal cost must be increases, right? That from the very beginning. Now you have to put it in the graph. While you put in the graph, what you find, the marginal revenue is a horizontal straight line as it remains constant according to the quantity, and this is the equivalent to the average revenue, which is nothing but the exactly equals to the average revenue or demand curve, that the price of the product, right? And Marginal cost first of all reaches minimum, then increases, and this is the point of equilibrium, where marginal revenue is equals to the marginal cost, and marginal revenue from below or after the point of equilibrium, MC is to be more than MR. That is the after equilibrium. If it is so, then that is called as the equilibrium conditions. Okay. So this is the major things you have to remember in case of your TRTC approach and MC approach. Now, after knowing this, we have to move to the price output determination and profit computation both in short run and in long run. Here we just reflect the term how the pricing to be takes place in case of a profit computation with TR and TC approach and MR and MC approach. We have to move right now how you have to obtain the pricing under your profit computations both in short run as well as in case of your long run. Right now, in short run, we have to come across four different situations. Here, that is the supernormal profit, normal profit, losses, and shutdown point. But in the long run, we have to study only one term, that is called the normal profit. Why it is so? Why in short run we obtain the four different situations, but long run in only one situation? It is so because of the free entry and exit, right? Because of the free and entry, therefore, in long run, all the producer inside the industries obtain only the normal profit. Okay, how we have to depicting it? We have to move one by one. First, start with the short run, all the four situations, the four different figures are there. In the long run, again, the other different figures are there. Here in economics, remember in managerial economics, figure table equation is the very essential. If you're missing that table, figure, and equation, then you are unable to understand a single bit of it. Okay, therefore, we have to be careful how the curve to be created, in which what is the basic fundamental concept behind it, and how it will the conclusion or interpretation to be expressed. Those things you have to always remember. Let's start with the first case. Certain price output determination, supernormal profit. What is the meaning of the supernormal profit? Supernormal profit means when total revenue is more than the total cost. When total revenue is more than the total cost, that is called the supernormal profit. Right? We have to show it with the help of the figure. Right now. So the supernormal profit that tells us it is obtained when total revenue is more than the total cost. It's greater than the total cost. Right? Or if you take into account the average point of view, that the average revenue, right, is to be more than the marginal revenue. Okay, sorry, it is called the marginal cost, the revenue and cost. It is called the average revenue is more than the marginal cost. So that is the, remember the basic fundamental idea about TR is more than TC. Okay, or AR is more than AC. AR is more than AC. You can take this one. AR is more than AC, or we can take the term MR, which is to be more than that MC also. So these are the general concept you have to remember while you elaborating the term what is called the supernormal profit. The fundamental concept is to be obtained to be here when total revenue is more than the total cost, that is called the profit, and that profit is called, and in economics is a supernormal profit. When TR equal to TC, that is called the normal profit. Total revenue cost to total cost, that is called the profit, but that is called the normal profit. Okay. Now we start with the horizontal, that is called the axis is the quantity, and the vertical axis the revenue and cost and prices are there. And it is as the producer is a price taker, it accepts the ruling price of the market. So AR equal to MR horizontal straight line. That is the initial concept. Now we have to draw the marginal cost. Then you have to draw the average cost. What is the relationship between average cost and marginal cost? You know, average cost it will fall when marginal cost lie below it. Average cost increases when marginal cost lies above it. At the minimum point, they are equal to each other. That fundamental concept, which is derived from the cost chapter, as such there. Now, where is the point of equilibrium? We know the point of equilibrium is that when marginal cost and marginal revenue they are equal. Where is the point of the equality between MR and MC? Now, MR and MC, the equality takes place here. And what is at this particular situation? Market. Average revenue line is to be here and average cost line is here. Corresponding to this point, what do you find? Average revenue is more than the average cost. Average revenue is more than the average cost. Now we have to drop the perpendicular to determine the equilibrium price. So E is the equilibrium point where MR equal to MC. Equilibrium quantity is to be OQ, right? Then what is the price for the product? Now OP is the price, or EP is the EQ is the price for the product. Now what is the total revenue? Now OP into OQ, total price into quantity. Okay, that is called the total revenue. So OP EQ as the total revenue. So this is the price, average revenue into quantity. That is the OP into EQ. That is the total revenue. Or you can say the area OPEQ is called the total revenue. OPEQ is called the total revenue. Now, to know the cost, while you draw the perpendicular, where it touches the average cost, it touches the average cost at this particular point. So this to this distance is called the cost per unit. Yes or no? From the point of equilibrium, while you drop it, it made the average cost at this particular point. And corresponding to this, the vertical distance is called as the what? Average cost. And when you join to this side, that is called the total cost, right? Let's say we are putting it, this is the total revenue, we know. Okay, now our target is the total cost. At the point B, while you drop a perpendicular from the point E, it touches the point B, and corresponding to that, this to this, BQ is the cost of BQ star, it's what is written that, actually read as the BQ. So BQ is the average cost, or extend to this side, OQ is the average cost. What is the total cost? OA into OQ. So OA into OQ, while you multiply, sorry, BQ, OA, this is the OA and this is the OQ. While multiplying these things, we find the area OABQ. So OABQ, that is called as the total cost, average cost into the quantity. Now, while you're taking into account, this is the total revenue and this is the total cost. Total cost is the OABQ. While you're taking the difference between OAEQ and OABQ, then that difference is this area. That means ABEP is the profit. So ABEP is the profit area, right? So this profit to be obtained by the producer, each and every producer in the search run, and they have to be earning this supernormal profit. But in the long run, it may not be there because the new producer to be entered. But as we are inside the search run, always the existing producer obtain this much of the supernormal profit. Okay. Now we have to move to the next concept, that is called as the normal profit. As you know, normal profit means it is the total revenue exactly equals to the total cost. Total revenue equals to the total cost. Or we can say that average revenue equals to the average cost. Average revenue equals to the average cost, right? So these are the terms to be remembered to know the concept of normal profit. Now you have to also be explain that particular terms in the help of your figure as well as your explain it simply that. Start with the same thing. That means on the horizontal axis is the quantity, on the vertical axis is the price, and the as the producer the price taker, it accepts the ruling price of the market, that is called the OP. The average revenue and marginal revenue coincide is the horizontal straight line. Now we have to draw the marginal cost. Corresponding to that, we have to draw the average cost market. Now, what is the condition I read? The total revenue must be equal to the total cost. Average revenue must be equal to the average cost. That means we have to draw the average cost in such a manner that to be equal, that to be tangent to the average revenue. Average cost must be equal to the average revenue when it is tangent to each other. And the tangent is minimum point, and the marginal cost also passes through that minimum point. So this is the point of the equilibrium. And from that, why it is called the point of equilibrium? Because we know MR equal to MC. MR equal to MC. So that is the point also with the MR equal to MC. From that, drop a perpendicular to know the output, and here the price is to be obtained. So we can calculate the total revenue as OPEQ, and this is the point of E. We have to drop it. We know the equilibrium quantity OQ, and this is the price P. So OP into OQ, this area is called the total revenue. Similarly, we can move to the total cost also. Let's start with the equilibrium price and quantity. Then we're finding out this is the equilibrium, I mean total amount of revenue. This is the total revenue, right? OPEQ. Now moving to the total cost. While you calculating the total cost, where that equilibrium line, when you draw the perpendicular to the quantity axis, where it touches the AC, average cost, at the same point. So therefore, total cost is also in the same area. Why? Because it average cost is EQ or OP. Total cost also with the same area. There is no such profit. That means total revenue is to be same thing as the total cost. So as the total revenue equal to the total cost, what happened to the profit? Profit to be zero. So as the profit to be zero, there is no loss to occur to the producer. When there is no loss occur to the producer, then that particular term to be known as the normal profit. Okay. So here, in case of a normal profit, all the concepts will remain the same. That means not only MR equal to MC, that also will equals to the price and the average cost. Now move to the supernormal. Sorry, that is called the it is the wrongly written as the supernormal profit because it is a loss. Okay, so wrongly it is written. Forget these sort of things. It is the loss. We have to take into account the loss situation. The loss means when total revenue is to be less than the total cost. Total revenue is the less than the total cost. So when revenue, I mean the sales receipt is to be less than the cost of the production, then obviously it is called the loss. Or in the other way, average revenue, the price per unit is definitely less than the average cost. Okay? I mean the average cost is more than the price per unit. So that is the concept of the losses. Now we have to explain that with the help of the figure. So while you calculating the concept with the help of the figure, again we have to start with the same type of things. Horizontal axis quantity, vertical axis price and cost to be that. Because you have to write down the both the term to be here. That is the price as well as the cost. Right? It is not only the price to be written, you have to along with the price, we have to put the cost to be that. Why? Because we draw the average cost and marginal cost. Okay. Now corresponding that we have to draw the marginal cost and then we have to draw the average cost. Mark it. Why it is given to you? Why this sort of things is to be given? Why these things to be there? It is so because average cost is to be more than the average revenue. That is the last part. Average cost, we have to draw the average cost in such a manner that is to be more than the average revenue. That lies above the average revenue. Right? Or in the other way, average revenue is to be less than the average cost. Meaning is remain the same. Okay? And we have to draw the marginal cost, which is to be passes through the minimum point of your average cost. Now, where is the point of equilibrium? We know the point of equilibrium takes place when MR equal to MC. When marginal revenue equal to the marginal cost, that is the point of equilibrium. So, where is the point of equilibrium? Mark. This is the point of equilibrium. This should be the point of equilibrium. Why? Because the MR and MC at this point they are equal to each other, not at this point. So, you have to considering this one and drop the perpendicular to know the price and output. So when you're dropping it, we know the equilibrium quantity is OQ and equilibrium price is OP. Why? Because the price is the same thing as the average revenue. So this is the point of equilibrium. From that, this is the output and this is the price. But the total revenue? OPEQ is the what? OPEQ is called as the total revenue. Okay. OPEQ is called the total revenue. We have to draw that one first of all. Then after that, while you're moving to the term cost, you have to expand that. This particular line, you have to expand it upway to where it made the average cost. Where it made the average cost. Then you have to drop this side in order to know the total cost. So this is the area of the total cost. OPEQ. OPEQ is the total revenue. OABQ is the total cost. While you're taking the difference between these two, what do you find? This above area, this area, right? Because we know this is the total cost, this is the total revenue in the figure. While you take the differences between these two, and this area is called as that is the ABEP. That area to be treated as the losses. It's not the supernormal profit, it's the called as the loss. Why the loss? Because the cost is more than the revenue. Okay. Got it? So this is the loss situation. But now the question to be is, suppose the producer bear losses. Suppose the producer bear losses, up to what extent it will continue its business? Up to what extent it continue its business if we bear the losses? Now the producer can continue its its business beside earning the some amount of your or besides securing some amount of losses until it cover its maintenance cost. Maintenance cost means the variable cost. Okay, when the producer cover its variable cost up to that sort of thing, it will continue its business. Otherwise, if the price is below the average variable cost, then he may shut down its business. Now we have to try to enter into that how to show the shutdown situation in case of your short term. Let's say shutdown point. Shutdown means this is the loss, loss occur. No doubt the loss occur to the producer. Okay, because the shutdown to be occur when the losses are there. But up to what extent? Up to what extent means the total revenue, the price must be greater than the variable cost. When price is to be less than that, right, then you may shut down its business. Then what is the shutdown point? The equality between your average revenue and average variable cost. This is the point, average variable cost, or we can say the total revenue exactly equals to the total variable cost, right? Total variable cost. Okay, when they are equal, then we can say yes, this is the situation of the shutdown point. If any moment price is to be below the variable cost, he may quit the business, right? When the price is falls below the variable cost, he may quit the business. So that we have to depicting here. Now we draw the variable cost. Besides knowing the term, we know what is the relationship between average cost, marginal cost, and average variable cost. We know in very beginning, that is in the cost chapter. Average cost, minimum point is here. Average variable cost, minimum point is to be here. And marginal cost, first of all, reaches the minimum point. It caught the minimum point of average variable cost. It caught the minimum point of the average cost. That relations to be there as such. Okay. Where is the point of equilibrium? Point of equilibrium, when the marginal revenue equal to the marginal cost. Where is the marginal revenue equal to marginal cost? Mark the point. Here is the point of equilibrium. MR equal to MC. This is the point of equilibrium. And when you drop the perpendicular, we know the equilibrium output is here. And when we extend to it to on the vertical axis, we know the price is OP. The total revenue is OPAQ. This is the total revenue. You can take into account E here. If it is the E, then OPEQ is called the total revenue. When we extend that to the up way, it made the cost at this particular point, the point A, right? And the cost is to be OQAB. So this is the total amount of cost to be that. I have to putting that figure, right? So, okay, it's not written there. Let's say here we have to drop the perpendicular. This is called as the OQ, AQ. This is the point of equilibrium as such we know. But while you extend it, make the average cost to know the total cost. AQ is the average cost per unit. When you extend to this side, this is called as the total cost. OBAQ is called the total cost. And this is the loss area. So now we know the loss in our previous figure also, our previous slide. But up to what extent it continue the losses, bear the losses. While the loss, because the revenue is less than the total cost. Total cost is OBAQ, where the total profit, revenue is to be OBEQ. So AEPB is your loss area. Then if the loss to be occur, up to what extent it continue? From this particular figure, from the first average variable cost, whether to continue or not so? Yes, obviously it continue its business. Why? Because the average revenue, that is the price is the more than, price is here, but vertically below average cost, average variable cost is here. So price is more than the variable cost, continue the business. But if you take the other variables, now it increases. Let's say average variable cost increases. If the average variable cost, maintenance cost increases, the rent increases, and so on. If those things to be increases, the variable cost increases. But mark the point right now. Right now, the minimum point of the average variable cost on the price line. That means the average revenue and average variable cost, they are same. So up to that it will continuous business. That is the shutdown point. If the price further, if the average variable cost further increase, then he may quit the business. He may quit the business. So this is the situations what to be explained here, what is called as the shutdown point. So in the short run, we have to come across these four situations. First is called the normal profit, then supernormal profit, then it is the losses, thereafter the shutdown point. Then after that, move to the firm supply curves. How a particular firms create its supply curves. The supply curves is to be that up to what extent the relationship between your average cost and the marginal. This is your marginal cost, right? This is your marginal cost, and this is your average variable cost. Average variable cost. You know, after the minimum point of the average variable cost, there is no such productions. And production to be continue and price to be increases or something else, cost to be increases after this particular point. There is nothing to be producer going to be produced below this, right? Why? It is so because if it produces below this, then it is less than this particular point, average variable cost. So this to this of your marginal cost represent the supply cost. So those segment of the marginal cost which is lies over and above the minimum point of your average variable cost, that represents the supply cost of a particular firm. We can depict it here. Let's say this is your marginal cost, this is the average cost, average variable cost, and you're finding out that terms are there. Initially, the point is here, right? The price is to be P1. It is going to continue the business. But the market, this is the point, the minimum point of your average variable cost. The minimum point of your average variable cost, right? Below that, if the price falls below, the producer should not produce here because this is the shutdown point we know in our previous slide. This is your shutdown point. Now, if the price falls below, producer can't producing it, and he may produce more and more if the price is to be. This is the yellow line is called the price line. That's the average revenue line. When the price line is more than the average variable cost, then it will be produces its product. So those segment of your marginal cost, which is lies above over and above this minimum point of your average variable cost, represents the supply cost. And this is the supply curve of a farm, and in the same way that is side by side we can obtain the supply curve of the industry also. Addition of vertical addition of all the supply curves of each and every farm, we can obtain the industry supply curve. So market this particular term by joining this all the points. So b to this particular point, from b, right, from this onwards of your marginal cost represent the supply curve. Now move to the price output determination in case of your long run. To determine the price and output in case of your long run, we have to considering certain things first. Let's say profit maximization case in the long run. In long run, you know the producer only obtain the normal profit. What is the meaning of the normal profit? Normal profit in the sense total revenue must be equal to the total cost. So that is the situation in case of your long run. Total revenue equal to total cost, or in the other way, average revenue equals to the average cost. It is possible only in case of your long run. And that is the situation to be right. That is the ultimate situation, the final situation. Producer obtain the normal profit. But how it is so? Suppose the producer obtains supernormal profit. What is the problem? What sort of problem arises? And how you have to raise the normal profit? If the producer bear losses, then how we have to obtain the normal profit? That we have to know here. It is so because the free entry and exit. Because of the free entry and exit. So prior to that, we have to start with the explanations with the help of your figure. Now, in case of your farm, this side is the farm, this is your farm, and this is your, sorry, this is the farm, sorry, just I did a printing mistake to that. This is the farm, and this is your industry. Industry in the sense, where the demand and supply to be equals to each other. That is the industry equilibrium, right? And that determine the equilibrium price. That determine the equilibrium price. This is the point of the equilibrium, and that determine the equilibrium price. This is the market equilibrium, or which is otherwise known as the industry equilibrium. Okay. Now that tries to be accepted by the producer inside the farm. Okay. When the farm, the producer is to be that, and it obtain the whatever profit, we have to judge that one. But the price line is to be this one. This is the price line which we obtain because it's the price taker. It accepts the ruling price of the market. Now, after that, what happened? Suppose the producer average cost to be here, corresponding marginal cost is here. That shows the producer obtain supernormal profit. That shows the producer obtain supernormal profit. Why? Because we find the total revenue curve, this to this is called the total revenue, this area, and total cost is this to this, because from the point of equilibrium when you drop it, you meet the average cost at this point. So cost is this area and revenue is more than the cost. So this area is the supernormal profit. Now, if the supernormal profit arises, then what happened? Right? This is the supernormal profit. If the supernormal profit arises, what happened? The new producer enter into the industry. New producer enter into the industry. If the new producer enter, the number of producer increases. If the number of producer increases, then what happens? Then in that particular case, supply increases. If the number of producer increases, the supply increases. That means the supply curve shifts towards right. And you know from the first chapter, from the supply chapter, increase and decrease in supply. So supply curve shifts towards right. Given demand, it met the new supply curve at this particular point. Now corresponding to that, once again we find a new price. Once again we have to find a new price. And that price to be accepted by the all the producers inside the farm. And when it is so, we find market here is just tangent to the average cost curve. As it tangent to the average cost curve, so it obtains the normal profit. And this process to be continue. This, I mean, if there is a profit, if there is a profit to be occur to the producer, the new producer to be entered into the industry, and this process to be continue until the entire profit is to be distributed among the new producers. And all the producers inside the farm only obtain the normal profit. Okay, so that is the situation in case of your long run. So let's say another point, suppose the producer in long run bear losses, then how we reach the equilibrium point? We have to start with the loss. So the loss means, what is the meaning of the loss? Loss means cost is more than the revenue. Market average cost is to be here, at the minimum point to be here, which is to be more than the average revenue, right? Therefore, that situation you have to be considering as the loss. Now, move to the industry's point of view. In case of the market equilibrium to be takes place, when demand equal to the supply, and the demand supply curve to be meet each other at this particular point, then the price is, this is the price to be there, and equilibrium quantity is here. As is the price taker, it accepts the ruling price of the market. It accepts the ruling price of the market. Therefore, the price line is here, average revenue. And the producer bear losses. So in order to trace the loss figure, draw the average cost is more than the average revenue curve. And corresponding, we have to trace the marginal cost. Where is the point of equilibrium? This is the point of equilibrium. Why? Because marginal revenue and marginal cost, they are equal to each other at this particular point. And corresponding to that, we find the amount of the profit or loss. Obviously, we find this is the total cost. Cost is more than the revenue. So the loss area, this area is a loss area. This particular area is called the loss area. If the loss occur to the producer, then what happened? If the loss occur to the producer, obviously not a single producer try to produce inside the industries. But why it is so? Because you know, in the long run, all the input factors are the variable, right? In the long run, total cost is the same thing as the total variable cost. Why? Because there is no such fixed cost. There is no such fixed factor. For that reason, average cost is the same thing as the average variable cost. Average variable cost. And the minimum point of the average cost or the average variable is the same thing as in case of the long run, that to be represented as your shutdown point. Right? If the loss, if the price is to be below this particular point, if the price is to be below this particular point, then what happens? Obviously, loss occurs to the producer. And he is unable to maintain its maintenance cost. Definitely, he would be quit the industry. When the producer, number of producers quit the industry, Obviously what happened? Supply decreases, number of producer falls means supply falls. Supply falls means supply curve shifts towards left. If the supply curve shifts towards left, then it made the given demand curve at a separate point. It made the demand curve at a separate point. And corresponding to that, we determine a new price. Corresponding to that, we determine a new price. And that particular price line tangent the minimum point of your average cost curve. Right? So that's the situation. If the loss occur, then what happened? If the loss occurred to the producer, then some of the existing producer they may quit it. When they quit, supply curve shifts toward left, then new point of equilibrium to be takes place, and new price is to be there, and that price be accepted by all the producers inside the firm, and therefore it obtain only the normal profit. As it tangent to be here, total revenue is the same thing as the total cost. Now market. This is the new line to be traced, and obviously all the producer inside the industry obtain only the normal profit. So this is the way to determine the price of output in case of your long run. So in the long run, no way the producer obtains supernormal profit or bear losses. Okay, so we are depicting that with a separate figure. Let's start with here. Now we know this is the long run average cost curve, long run marginal cost curve, and the relationship also as such there, as you know. Marginal cost got the minimum point of your average cost. When marginal cost lies below the average cost falls, and after that, when marginal cost more than the average cost increases. You know from the cost chapter the relationship between the long run marginal cost and long run average cost, and also you know how to derive the long run marginal cost. Now, suppose the average revenue is to be that. Assuming the ruling price is to be OP1, that to be accepted by the producer. And what happened to the producer? At this situation, producer definitely bears supernormal profit. Why? Because the equilibrium at the point E1. This is the average revenue and marginal revenue curve, and the equilibrium is to be E1. And when the price is here, what about the cost? Cost to be here, average cost. Cost is here. So there is a supernormal profit. So if there is supernormal profit, then what happened? As you know, if the supernormal profit occur to the producer in long run, new producer to enter into the industry. I mean, new firms can enter into the market. If the new firm enter into the market, then supply comes to shift towards right, and the total supply increases. If the supply increases, then price falls down, and that to be continue until the price line OP1 it will be shifted downway in such a manner it tangent the minimum point of your average cost curve. Right now, in such a manner it will be false that it will tangent the, and at this situation what you find now total revenue is the same thing as the total cost. There is no loss, no profit, normal profit. Suppose if you start a point below it, suppose you have to start the price below it. Let's say if you set the price to be OP2. If the price is OP2, mark where the point of equilibrium, equilibrium at the E2. Why? It is because the marginal revenue equal to the marginal cost. This is the new marginal revenue curve, and this is the marginal cost as sustained. Where is the point of equilibrium? E2. But whatever the cost, cost is here. Cost is corresponding this point, cost is here. Now, cost is more than the revenue. If the cost is more than the revenue, what happened? Obviously, loss occurred to the producer. If the loss occurred to the producer, some of the existing producer they start quitting the industry. When some of the existing producers start quitting the industry, then supply curve shifts towards left. If the supply curve shifts towards left, then again new point of equilibrium takes place. Then the price is to be more than the initial price. So the price line shift upward. Price line shift upward. That means the price line becomes right now it is the OP star. Initially, when the price is OP1, new producer enter. Why? Because of the profit. Because of the profit, new producer enter, and that continue until the price move back to the OP star, and here the equilibrium to be takes place, no loss, no profit. If you start with the price below it, then into the losses situations, then the producer what happened? The existing producer may quit the industry, and thereby as the number of producer falls, I mean supply falls, demand more, obviously price increases, and price to increase continue until that particular new price line that with the tangent to the average cost curve at its minimum point, where the producer obtain only the normal profit. Okay, if supernormal to be occur, new farm to be entered into, compete with the existing one, take away the profit, and if there is a loss to be occur, some of the existing producer may quit the industries, and this process to be continued until the existing producer inside the industries obtain only the number of profit. Okay, so this is the all about how price and output to be determined in case of your short run as well as in case of the long run, both in case the farm's point of view and industry's point of view. Now, after that, move to a numerical problem. Suppose it is given to you that the demand functions faced by a farm is to be P that equals to 500 minus 0.2x. This is your demand curve. This is your average revenue curve, right? Demand means this is called the average revenue curve, right? And it's the cost functions. The cost function is given as these things. The cost function given as 25x plus 10,000. And this is the cost means this is the whatever cost. It is called the total cost. Total cost is given to you as 25x plus 10,000. Find out the output. Find the output at which the profit to be the maximum. Okay, the firm maximize the profit. Also find the price at which it will be the charges. So average revenue is given, total cost is given. Question is find the profit maximizing output and what is the price. Two things are given. You have to calculate the what is the equilibrium price, and second question is to be that what is the equilibrium quantity. Those things you have to calculate from this particular problem. Now how to move? We know the equilibrium to be takes place when marginal revenue equals to the marginal cost. Marginal revenue equal to the marginal cost. But marginal revenue and marginal cost both are not given. But marginal cost can be obtained by taking the derivative of your total cost. That means the derivative of your total cost with respect to your output. That is called as the with respect to the output in the sense here the output is x as I take into account. So derivative of output with respect to x. That is called the marginal cost. We have to finding out the marginal cost. Total cost is given. So marginal cost definitely how much? You have to take the derivative of this particular equation. The 10,000 derivative is 0 is a constant term. 25 x is given. X derivative is 1. Therefore, marginal cost is 25. Okay. What about the marginal revenue? Here the total revenue is not given, but we know total revenue is nothing but price into quantity. The price into quantity, price into quantity. Quantity to be x is here, right? So price into quantity, just multiplying in the both side by x. While you multiplying both side by of this particular equation by x, it becomes total revenue. P into x is called the total revenue, and this is become 500x, and this becomes 0.2 x square. After finding out the total revenue, we can know how to find the marginal revenue. Marginal revenue can be calculate derivative of your total revenue with respect to the output, right? Derivative of total revenue with respect to output. Then when we making the equality between the MR and MC or TR and TC, then we find the profit maximizing output. Now we have to solve that one. Look at here. The condition for maximization profit equal to MR equal to MC. Total cost is given, right? Initially it is inside the question is down the C. Total cost is the 25x minus 10,000. And what about the marginal cost? Derivative of this is called the 25. This is called the marginal cost. Similarly, total revenue means price into quantity. Here quantity is to be represented by x, and we find 500x minus 0.2 x square. When you're taking the derivative of this, we find the marginal revenue. 500x x derivative 1, so only 500 is there. And here power comes front into these things. So 0.2 into 2 is to be 0.4 and power less 1. So therefore it will be 0.4x. So we got the marginal revenue and marginal cost. Now what is the conditions? Condition of equilibrium is to be MR equal to MC. When you make the equality between the total revenue as the marginal revenue and marginal cost, and simplifying that, we find equilibrium output is to be 1187.5 or 1187.5, right? Now, what is this is the equilibrium quantity. We got the equilibrium quantity, but what is the price? We already know what is the price line. This is the price. Price means the average revenue. This is called the price. Question will also be called as the price. To know the price, what you have to do? We have to put the point x value to be here. Okay, you have to put the x value to be here. So while you're putting the x values to be here in the equations price equation, we find the equilibrium price is to be 262.5. So this is the way to handle the numericals if it is there in case of your profit computations. Okay, that's all about the profit computations. So what is the time? Okay, 3 minutes to be left. Okay, we have to start with the term next chapter, what is called as the marginal, I mean to the monopoly. But okay, so we have to start with the monopoly. Monopoly means single seller. Mono means single, poly means seller. The how the price and output determined under this monopoly we have to start. But we should not start this one right now. We have to, instead of starting it, we have to move that another problem is given. You have to start these things, because why you have to unnecessarily start a new topic? There's a few time to be left. So the problem is to be here. Total revenue and total cost of the given function to be here. This is the total revenue and total cost. Question is to be find the equilibrium price and output. Same questions. Find the equilibrium price and output. So you know the condition of equilibrium. Marginal revenue equals to the marginal cost. Marginal revenue equals to the marginal cost. And question need to be here. Total revenue is given. If the total revenue is given, then how to find the marginal revenue? The marginal revenue means the derivative of the total revenue. If you find the derivative of these things, what happens? Q derivative is 1, only 30 to be here, right? Only 30 you can put it here, and derivative of q square means minus into 2q. That is the 2q. So we got the marginal revenue, and we have to find the marginal cost also. This is the total cost. Marginal cost, you have to calculate the marginal cost. Marginal cost, take the derivative of this one. While you take the derivative of 20 plus 4q, the outcome is how much? 20 derivative the constant 0, 4q derivative is only 4. Now we find the marginal revenue and marginal cost. Just by equating this, then we find the equilibrium price and output. Okay, just by equate these two terms, 30 minus 2q equals to 4. We have to move into the solution. 30 minus 2q, that equal to the 4. When you solve this one, you find equilibrium quantity to be 13. And when you I mean, what is the price? Price means what? We know this is called the total revenue. While you putting the value q there, here you have to put 13 into 30 minus 13 square. Then what you got? You got the total revenue. But my target is the average revenue. How to finding the average revenue? The average revenue is nothing but total revenue divided by number of outputs sold in the market. While you dividing total revenue divided by number of Q, then you know the total revenue. After putting it, you find the total revenue. You already got the Q equal to 13. When you find putting that value to be here, then we can find the revenue or the price per unit, that is nothing but 17. So this is the way we have to finding out all sort of solutions related to the price output determinations under profit companies. So that's all for today. We have to stop sharing to my slide to be here. And in the coming class, we have to start with the term what is called as price output determination in monopoly. And if time permit, then again we have to move to the term what is called as the price output determination under oligopoly. The large number of topics are there. It is very difficult to complete that one within the short durations. Still then, we completed the majority of the chapters are there. Thank you. Thank you for today.